Timor-Leste President José Ramos-Horta is in the country for a 4-day state visit aimed at enhancing the bilateral relations between Manila and Dili. The Manila Bulletin is very lucky to be able to sit down with the Nobel Peace Prize laureate, and this is the result of our interview. So, welcome to Manila, Mr. President. May we know what is the message that you will be bringing to our president tomorrow when you meet him in Malacañang Palace?
Uh, since I was re-elected in May 2022, it has been my priority to pay visits to all ASEAN countries. Traditionally, since our independence, Indonesia being our closest neighbor and our particular historical relationship, is always the first country we visit, Timorese president or prime minister. Second, our second closest neighbor is Australia. So the second country to visit is Australia, which I did both in 2022. And then I did Singapore in December 22, Malaysia the same time as I did Singapore. And depends on the agenda of each country. The Philippines, and there was confirmation response for today, for now, so I came. One of our priorities, one of our interests, a strong relationship. Besides Indonesia, which has many more people living in Timor-Leste, and thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of Timorese living in Indonesia, obviously is always a priority for us. But I would say, apart from Indonesia and maybe China, the Philippine community probably would be the third largest in Timor-Leste. Besides, we are two predominantly Catholic countries in Asia with Iberian colonial experience, Timor-Leste, Portugal for 500 years, Spain misruled the Philippines, and then you had the US experience, but you also endured World War II. Timor-Leste endured World War II. So we have a lot of shared experience. Then in '99, when the UN deployed an international force to stabilize Timor-Leste following the violence in September '99, Philippines contributed with a battalion, and the battalion and the police stayed on for several years in Timor-Leste. Many Timorese study in the Philippines, including to graduate as in seminaries to be priests. We have had over the years many Filipino missionaries in Timor-Leste, priests, nuns. So very close relationship, people to people, and after independence, very good development of relationship between our two countries. But unfortunately, in the 21 years, 22 years since independence, no Filipino president visited Timor-Leste. Not even foreign minister visited Timor-Leste. Only at the inauguration of our independence 22 years ago. But even at the independence in 2002, Filipino president didn't come. So that was a disappointment. And bearing in mind that Philippines had troops in Timor-Leste, police, and many other people serving with the UN, the Filipino defense minister, the army chief of staff, president, etc. didn't visit. So I'm optimistic that President Marcos Jr. Will visit Timor-Leste soon. And that will pave the way for expanded cooperation relationship, because the visit of a head of state is always a big event, and is preceded or followed by some comprehensive agreements on partnerships, and we still could benefit a lot from Philippine partnership with Philippines in the area of education, health, economics, trade, investments, and so on.
With what is happening in the world right now, Mr. President, the war in Ukraine, the war in Israel, are you going to also bring a message of peace when you talk to our president tomorrow? About you will be discussing a number of
Yes,
issues, right?
primarily the bilateral relations.
Yes.
That's my main interest and priority. But any other area, namely regional situation, whether Myanmar or South China Sea, we always try to align ourselves with the policies, the positions taken by ASEAN countries. When ASEAN countries among themselves do not reach consensus in regard to a particular regional international question on the global agenda, then we have to look at our own position, but always in consultation with our closest neighbors, particularly Indonesia. It doesn't mean that necessarily that we would always agree with our neighbors, but as a respect, as a good neighbor, when there is lack of consensus in ASEAN, then we consult first with our closest neighbor, how they view a particular situation, what are they going to do about it, what position they are going to take. Then we try to calibrate our position to be in harmony with our good neighbor.
Speaking of ASEAN, sir, you have been a de facto 11th member of ASEAN. And last year, you expressed confidence that in a year or two, you will be able to achieve full membership in the ASEAN. How is this going along as far as you're concerned, sir?
As you probably would know, first, at the Phnom Penh meeting, ASEAN leaders welcome Timor-Leste as observer state, and then at the Labuan Bajo meeting in May 2023, a roadmap was agreed upon, which define some milestones, namely accession to treaties, about 60 of them, that are prerequisite for Timor-Leste ASEAN membership. But same time, as we were working on ASEAN membership, we are working with WTO to access WTO. All the negotiations are basically concluded, and we probably join WTO in March next year in Abu Dhabi during the ASEAN General Assembly. Because 70% or more of treaties that we have to agree and ratify in regard to WTO are the same that ASEAN countries share, agree to, and vice versa. And in any case, even if we were not going to be a member of ASEAN, these treaties are all necessary for any civilized country that wishes to cooperate, to engage in international, regional, international trade and so on, because these are the treaties that regulate international trade. So it is for us, yes, we are working hard towards implementation of the milestones, the roadmap, and I'm hopeful, optimistic that by 2025 we become a full member during the Malaysia's chairmanship.
I remember that you had an earlier meeting with our president outside of the Philippines,
Yeah.
and we were informed by our reporters there that our president was very supportive.
Yes.
He even like supported your full membership to ASEAN.
Yeah.
Is that topic going to be discussed when you meet with him tomorrow?
Yes. The Philippines has been one of the earlier advocates, supporter of Timor-Leste ASEAN membership. There was never any reservation or hesitation in the Philippines that Timor-Leste should join ASEAN. I was very pleased to meet President Marcos Jr. In Riyadh at the summit ASEAN and the GCC, Gulf Cooperation Council dialogue. I was the one who went and greeted President Marcos Jr. He was very friendly, one of the most accessible, charming, engaging president I have met, and he make you feel completely comfortable, and he was very warm, and we discussed briefly about ASEAN, and of course the president restated support to Timor-Leste joining, and he was looking forward to my visit when we are going to deepen the conversation. So I'm very pleased that President Marcos Jr. and his esteemed First Lady, our partners and new friends, because the First Lady also is highly regarded as a very dedicated academic and lawyer and so on. So I also hope that I'll be able to meet the First Lady, and that she'll be able to also visit Timor-Leste.
I'm sure you're going to get a confirmation from them.
Yeah.
So, sir, is it safe to say that your visit to the Philippines is a reinforcement of your friendship with our people?
Yeah. I've been to the Philippines many times in the past. Long before Timor-Leste's independence, I came here, met with Cardinal Sin, and befriended many politicians, senators, congressmen, congresswomen, academics, journalists. I knew almost every president in the past, from Fidel Ramos to Gloria Macapagal Arroyo to Joseph Estrada, to only President Duterte I didn't meet, because during that period I didn't come here. I was out of office also. I left office during my first presidency, which ended 2012. Then I had almost 10 years with the United Nations in different senior positions. So I couldn't come here. I went to other countries, but privately during that period. Then very pleased to hear about President Marcos Jr. Election, because we have common friends. They're all very happy with his election. And as we approach ASEAN membership, we need to accelerate the training of our people, diplomats, technical officials across the board, all sectors. And the Philippines has one of the finest diplomatic service, foreign service in the region. It has, it's very well known. Philippines is very well known. Many of the people very well known at the UN were Filipino leaders like past ministers, presidents were very well known. And the Philippines had a very competent foreign service. And our diplomats can learn a lot by spending time here. So I look forward to have a comprehensive program to increase, expand the training of our officials. We still have very limited number, and as we all know, the requirements of meetings in ASEAN are enormous. So we have to accelerate capacity building.
Do you consider the Philippines your home?
Yes, almost a home. I wouldn't say a home, but almost a home. Very similar people, temperament.
Yes.
Filipinos always like partying. Timorese is the same. And,
So many commonalities.
yeah, but I would say Filipinos are a bit more resourceful, more resilient, more enterprising than Timorese. We are not very much into business. Some of our communities are very good, but generally we are not.
You are a friend of the Filipinas. Do you
Yeah.
consider us your friends too?
I have many friends here, and I know many Filipinos around the world. And I remember once I was in transit in Dubai on my way somewhere.
Yeah.
I needed direction, and I saw a young man looking like working there in airport. I said, I just asked, can you tell me where exactly is such gate? And he was so kind. He didn't know who I was. He was so kind, escorted me all the way to my gate, which was still several, hundreds of meters away. And then it was soon after a big cyclone in the Philippines. That's when I met him. And I knew there were a lot of... so before I left, I gave him some money. I said, "Lee, please send this to your family." And
You must have cried. You must have cried tears of joy.
and then I gave him my business card. He still didn't know.
When he saw your business card.
No, he only later he emailed me because he said I suspected who you were, and so I'm very surprised.
What a lucky. And
So he had heard of me, he knew, but he was still. So we maintained conversation, email for a while, and.
that's a good story, sir.
So he
How
was.
did you know that he's Filipino?
Well, no, I didn't know he was Filipino. He looked like, obviously, and I just and he looked like someone working there, the way he dressed. So I asked only for direction. He could have just said, "Go this way or that way." No, he accompanied me all the way to the gate, and and because I read about the cyclone, and I asked him, he said, "Yes, my family was affected." He was worried, and so I gave him some modest money.
Thank you for that, sir. So this visit is actually also...
So if he reads this, he might contact me again. My email didn't change.
He will definitely send you more emails this time.
Yeah.
So this visit, sir, is actually also for you to get the best practices from the Philippines.
Well,
right?
one thing is that amazing about the Philippines, it's a country that in the past, some in Asia joke about it. Either the media would describe Philippines as the sick man of Asia.
That's right.
in terms of economics,
Economic,
or
yeah.
they would say, yeah, the Filipinos, the problem, they have too much democracy. I don't know what can be too much democracy, but anyway, today it has, I would say, the highest economic growth in the world. I don't know of any country that has even 6%.
We have a nice GDP growth.
Yeah, more than 7%.
Yes.
And largely very peaceful. I can see the city unrecognizable, clean. So to be very proud, and I'm very happy for the Philippines. And we have a lot of entrepreneurs. When I was president, my first term, I received two different young Filipinos as my interns in my office, and both today are enormously successful in their business, but enormously nationally in the Philippines. One is getting married in December, December 2nd, and I'm the godfather.
Wow, how lucky. You seem to be very interconnected with Filipinos, Mr. Pro.
Yes. Many over the years.
And you must
And
be.
in Timor-Leste, I go to their functions.
Oh,
And the Philippine embassy hosted some great function a year or so ago, and I was the guest of honor. And so it was more than 2 years because before I became president. Even as former president, they invited me.
so you must be looking forward to a number of exchanges between Timor-Leste and the Philippines in many areas of cooperation.
Yes, there is no limit to it's up to us to explore, but it's also necessary for the Filipino private sector to think beyond the Philippines, to think about Timor-Leste, to invest there, whether in tourism, in hotel, or agriculture, manufacturing, pharmaceuticals. I asked question about the pharmaceutical industry. Philippines has a good pharmaceutical industry. Philippines is very advanced in IT, in solar, renewable energy. So there is potential for partnership. The partnership can be between the Timor-Leste government and a company in the Philippines, because we have done PPP, public-private partnership.
Yes, sir.
The very first one we did, the biggest, almost $500 million. It involved the Timor-Leste government, French company, construction company, port, Bolloré, one of the biggest in the world, and the World Bank. The contract was awarded to a Chinese company called China Harbor, which is a giant company. It is not Chinese grant or loan. It was the China Harbor won the contract. It was awarded to China Harbor by the French group Bolloré, which is a partner with Timor-Leste, a co-investor with our government on the new port, which is almost $500 million investment. It's done, it's ready, already inaugurated a year ago, actually almost 2 years ago.
And what can the Philippines learn from Timor-Leste?
Well, not much. Philippines has much more experience, more resources. It doesn't need to learn from Timor-Leste democracy. Our democracy is maybe slightly less chaotic than the Philippine democracy, and slightly less because we are much smaller and much more manageable. And Philippines is a very resilient country, is classified as the most vulnerable to climate change. This has been the history of Philippines for many decades, many generations. And that's why the challenges, the unkindness of the weather made Filipinos very resilient, very imaginative. And we watch the news, I watch the news, the cyclone destroy, and then they raise up, build again, in the same place sometimes. And another cyclone comes, again, build again, life goes on. So we cannot but have sympathy and admiration.
Thank you so much. Timor-Leste President José Ramos-Horta will be meeting with President Marcos in Malacañang today. On top of the agenda is the expansion of bilateral relations between the two countries. He will also invite our president to visit East Timor or Timor-Leste.